Georgia Governor Brian Kemp testified on Monday in the Fulton County District Attorney's investigation into former President Trump's attempts to change the state's 2020 presidential election results. Now, Kemp is one of several high-profile Republican officials who resisted Trump's attempts to alter the election. The district attorney's office also requested documents from Kemp's office by Monday relating to the former president. District Attorney Fani Willis has issued a flurry of other subpoenas in recent weeks, including to Senator Lindsey Graham and former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani. Anthony Michael Kreis is an assistant professor of law at Georgia State University, and he joins me now to talk about what's happening here. Anthony, thank you for your time today. Governor Kemp ran afoul of former President Trump for refusing to push this notion of a fraudulently stolen election in Georgia, but that decision immediately put him in Trump's crosshairs. What might the DA want to hear from Kemp?
Well, we know that the former president asked Governor Kemp to convene a special session of the General Assembly in an attempt to create a new slate of electors and sow confusion into the counting of the Electoral College results. And so we might want to know what kind of conversations the two of them had. We might want to know if there was any pressure put on the governor. We know that pressure was put on by Donald Trump to state officials like Brad Raffensperger. We also know that there was some pressure exerted on the Senate candidates at the time, Kelly Loeffler and former Senator Perdue. So we might want to know, the dynamics there, what requests were made, and what inducements or other forms of perhaps bargaining was underway.
And I guess the DA would need to piece together the sequence of events, all communication, who said what when, and why. D.C. Willis has subpoenaed South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, as we've mentioned, and Mr. Trump's former personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, among others. What are the odds, do you think, these subpoenas might make it to former President Trump himself?
I suspect there's a pretty good chance. What the DA is doing here is pretty typical of what any DA would do in building a case, which is you start from the bottom and you work your way up. And I think that we're getting closer towards an inflection point now where you're really starting to see her subpoena bigger actors and perhaps try to leverage certain individuals against the former president and his allies. And so it's hard to predict exactly where she's going to go or where the path might take the special grand jury. But I wouldn't discount the possibility that eventually a subpoena lands in front of Donald Trump.
And as we've heard during the January 6th committee hearings, this effort to put fake electors together was really central to this scheme. 16 Trump allies involved in creating that alternate elector slate were notified they could face charges in this ongoing investigation led by Willis. What can you just tell us about where the case stands today?
Well, of course, grand jury proceedings are always secret, and so it's anybody's guess what exactly is happening or where exactly the state of the investigation lies. Of course, I think it's true, at least it seems from indications from the judge and from certain folks who are in the know, that this may well go into October, November, December. So we have a considerable amount of time. I think that really at the end of the day, what we do know is that it is in fact heating up. The focus on the fake electors, I think, is really important because it's kind of that crucial linchpin between the campaign and some of the more, obviously potential criminality in terms of submitting false documents and things of that nature, forgeries, or there's a lot of potential allegations that could come out of that. So again, it's very hard to say, but I think what we can say decisively is that things are heating up. And you certainly wouldn't want to be somebody who was in the former president's circle, who was also active in Georgia after the elections. It seems the spotlight is just getting hotter and hotter.
And so considering that, I mean, you give a pretty long runway for how long this case could continue to unfold. If, in fact, these allegations are proven true, how might this have wider implications beyond Georgia?
Well, I think at the end of the day, people in Georgia, people in Fulton County, and everybody across the country has to ask this fundamental question, which is, why are we doing this? If it's just to get folks hooked on a couple misdemeanors, then that seems to be a lot of time and resources spent on pretty low level offense. But I don't think that's exactly what's happening here. I think at the end of the day, what the DA recognizes, what the people of Georgia recognize, is that this was an attempt, I think, to quite obviously overthrow democracy in the state of Georgia and in the United States, and to subvert a lawful, transparent, clean election. History is replete with examples of when anti-democratic forces have gotten away with it. They're just energized to continue apace. And I think that what we're doing here is trying to do a couple of things, which is first, get a substantial, complete, and fair record, a historical for history and for the general public's understanding of exactly what happened in Georgia and how could it be prevented again, and to seek some form of justice, which I think is also something that people here and across the country direly want.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And looking at these allegations, when you spend time with it and really think about the implications, it's quite sobering. Michael Kreis, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.